Hello, welcome to a special Q&A recording of I Am Greta, playing as a special event at the 45th Toronto International Film Festival. My name is Tom Powers, and I'm TIFF's documentary programmer, celebrating my 15th year at the festival. I'm honored to be here with the film's director, Nathan Grossman, coming to us from Stockholm, Sweden, and making his first appearance at TIFF. I want to give a thanks to our audience for being a part of TIFF during these unprecedented times. We are grateful for your support to keep TIFF going for years to come. This film is eligible for the People's Choice Award. You can vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. And now to Nathan. Nathan, you told me that you're in the very edit room where Greta was put together.
That's correct, Tom. It feels nice being back here in this room. It was the one available here at the office. And it feels like the right room to address you guys from.
So your film starts in August 2018, before most of the world had heard of Greta Thunberg. What drew you to her story? What allowed you to get in before other people were paying attention?
Yeah, it was that classical documentary serendipity. A friend of mine knew the family a little bit. He had worked together with them. He was doing a feature script actually, which had a character that was a little bit common to Greta. So he was in contact with the family, and they said to him that she was going to do this school strike before the Swedish election. And I've worked a lot with kind of environmental questions in my documentaries. I've done a TV series and a short film about that topic. And he asked if I thought it was interesting. And I decided that I was going to take my camera and go down to the street Riksgatan, which is a very narrow street which is outside the Swedish parliament, to see what kind of a thing it was, because I've always been very interested in seeing if I could portray something with children and their relationship to climate change. And I felt like it could be something for the Swedish election, maybe. So that was how I came across her in the beginning.
So a film about Greta Thunberg could take many different forms. I'm sure when people come to this film, maybe they've got some preconception of what it will be in mind. How did you choose your focus about what you were going to keep in and what you were not going to pay attention to?
No, but I think from fairly early on, and I think you've seen that in the movie, that it kind of takes off very quickly. The local media kind of picks her up very quickly, and she's very articulate about how she speaks about this matter. And I got very interested in, when I heard her answering, journalists, you have your headphones on as a filmmaker, and you hear those answers. And I heard her speeches in the beginning, and I wanted to understand kind of how her inner kind of monologue looks like, because I think everyone has an inner monologue. I have, that is kind of the background noise that kind of spins in our head, that kind of then becomes the words that comes out of our mouths or our fingers if we write. And I felt that I wanted to kind of get beyond those words that just came out in the media, and try to kind of go down to her point of view and see if there was a way to do kind of a portrait which was very much from her perspective. So there's, as you know, in the film, there's no interviews with the family and the father. It's just kind of her narration, which is based on interviews and actually based on her diary notes to a very large extent. And also we worked very hard with kind of getting the camera down to her perspective. I'm fairly tall. I'm 190 centimeters, and she's very short. So I've really, scrunched my back to be able to create that, inside Greta's world kind of feeling, which was what I was interested in.
I mean, I think you really achieved that intimacy, and you're present for difficult moments, and I wonder how you handled that sensitivity with the family and with Greta, when she's retreating to her room, just understandably, needing a break from all the pressures of the world.
Yeah, I think that was a very important part of this. I started to get to know them very early on, before she was, the big kind of activist star, and we're, close friends to that extent. So we always had this deal that whenever it was something that they didn't want me to film, they could always say, Nathan, you don't film this. But actually that happened very seldomly, because we filmed for periods of time where we were very in close contact, but also as their traveling was so extensive, I couldn't follow them kind of all the time on every journey. So there were lots of times where they were not with me to that extent.
So I need to ask you about the sailing boat journey, and it looked harrowing just to be a passenger, let alone trying to film it. Can you talk about how that was captured?
Yeah, it was captured by me. The entire film it's now becoming this big film, but for me it's, I think, always been a small film, in the sense that I've had the camera on my shoulder myself. I've taken 95% of the audio myself. And when the boat ride came up, I was a bit afraid. Actually, I have not very much sailing experience, and I know that going on a regular sailboat over the Atlantic, I would say maybe, but on this kind of a race boat, I was very nervous. But I said to myself that hiring, as you can see in the movie, and as I told, I'm very close to Greta and to her family, and I felt like to bring in another photographer to do that they were going to do. I felt that I will go on the trip and I will shoot this myself. So it was a very bumpy ride. It's hard holding the camera, stable in those situations. And we really, of course, we had days which were a little bit less rough, which are actually more boring, where you just sit and wait. So the boats. The parts of the boat that are in the movie are, of course, the most kind of when it happened, the most things. But it was a very special 2 weeks on that ocean.
Wow. Around the world, we see climate activists who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and who don't receive the same attention that Greta does. And I remember last December at a UN meeting in Madrid, Greta was trying to put more of an emphasis, turn the microphone over to other people. Can you reflect on the way that media focuses on Greta?
Yeah, I also remember the thing that you're quoting there from Madrid, and I think there's one scene in the movie, when she sits with another activist, I think it's in Belgium, and she says, what's so good about this movement is that everyone is important. I think Greta's been very open about and very, very focused on that this is not her movement. It's a movement that is broad, it's inclusive, and the kind of core of what she's been speaking about is a lot of kind of climate justice, which comes down to that she knows, and I think she says that to Macron as well, that this is something that will affect people of color disproportionately, and so she's very aware of that. But I think that she's always kind of, I think she's aware of that she comes from this privileged background, and that she has this that it's easier for her, and I've always respected her for then taking the kind of time and effort to put that into speaking for people that doesn't get the same attention, and kind of shifting away the focus to climate justice kind of again and again, trying as much as she can to the media to say, look at these other people. And from my perspective, when I did the film, it's as I said, it's from her point of view, but in the end credits, as when we kind of in the end of the film can open up the world, I always from the beginning wanted to kind of use that as a chance to kind of show the variety of fantastic activists that are out there.
You described that when you came to this project, you had made other environmental oriented projects before, so you've been in this headspace before. But I wonder, as Greta lives out her values in such a strong way, if you felt personally challenged by this young person taking on positions that to many people in a strong consumer society are very challenging, not flying on a plane, for instance.
Yeah, that's a great question, Tom. And it's funny, I have two small anecdotes on that, which is one is we were actually traveling on a train in a very early trip that we did, one of the first ones. and I bought this lunch salad in Copenhagen, which was in plastic jars, and I put it on the table, and then I think she took a picture and she posted it on her Instagram, and those plastic jars were on the table. It wasn't hers, but it was mine, and it became like a big, she's always been attacked, as shown in the media, in the film, by right-wing media, and people picked that up, and she got attacked for my plastic jars, and they were like, why are you eating from plastic? And then I just felt like, Jesus, I need to be like careful as well, in the sense that it's so aggressive, this kind of hatred against her, that even if I eat from plastic containers, that kind of spills over to her. So that was one thing, which was just, I've become more aware of those details, which I think is good to an extent. If I don't need to buy lots of plastic stuff, I can bring my own food in a glass container or whatever. So that was one big thing. And of course, the second one was, which that from the beginning, I felt that I wanted to do this film without flying. So it took so much more time, because I traveled on electric cars and trains with them all the time, and the only flight I actually took was back from the US, because you heard about the sailing trip. I spent one way over the Atlantic, so I saved myself the way back. So we really tried to make the film in that same kind of point of view as she has.
You were filming Greta during this time when more of the media started paying attention. What was that like for you as a filmmaker who had started out relatively, quiet with her, and you had to compete in a way with lots of other people looking for the same access?
Yeah, I think this movie would have never had the same kind of tone if we wouldn't get to know each other so early on. I think that you have the time to kind of get connected before all this frenzy starts, and then you're more like a team going into the frenzy than an external part that tries to kind of portray it. So I think that was very important for me. But I think also I decided very quickly that I was not going to try to kind of keep anyone away, but I was interested in taking more a step back. I think there are lots of scenes in the film where we actually can benefit from the media kind of coming in and trying to cover her, because that helped me out with not having to do talking heads, with her. I could use other media comments and surf a little bit on that, which was nice for both me and Greta, that didn't have to repeat answers to me. She said it to them. I filmed behind her back.
Well, it also lets us see the kind of pressure that a young person or any person would be under, having to answer those questions on a constant basis in a backdrop like the UN summit. And I feel like the film gives us a really privileged view of those pressures. I wonder if you can elaborate on anything more that you've witnessed spending this time with Greta's family that maybe it's hard to see from the outside, about what it's like to live when you have that much attention on you.
No, but I think it's one thing which was also on the comment on like, when do you stop filming and where do you kind of create that line? Because for me, I try to do documentaries as ethical as possible. It's a hard genre in that sense. But of course, we always had this thing in Swedish. We say "Nu tar vi kväll," which means like, now we take evening, in the sense that now this day is over. And I think, and I was very strict with that. So I think lots of the discussions and the more chill outs that we had, after maybe like 8 o'clock, that's not part of the film. And I think she's been very strict with that when it comes to all her things that she does, that she has that thing that she, says that, okay, but now this day, the 27th or 29th of September is done. It's 8, and I will have these hours, for myself before I kind of go to bed. And I kept that, like that was when I stopped filming, and then everything was off the record, and she didn't do any more interviews, didn't look on her phone. I think that's a really smart thing that we all could actually learn from her. Tack väl.
Absolutely. Good expression. We'll have to find an English equivalent for that. Well, Nathan, we're so honored to be showcasing this film for its first appearance in North America. I know I watched this film with my 10-year-old son, who would normally prefer to be watching The Simpsons than the subtitled documentary, but I saw how engrossed he was. And I know that, you know, millions of people are going to find that in this film. So thank you very much for being here and bringing this film for us.
Thank you, Tom. It feels so nice to be able to show it to the audience in North America, and starting out with TIFF. It feels like the right platform. So I'm so happy that you have it.